Okay, I guess we can get started. So thank you for joining the webinar today. It's going to be an interesting thing for you guys to look at what we have with respect to application resiliency on AWS. So Appranix, we are proud of what we kind of pushing the enterprises to go with site reliability. So our entire notion of making applications reliable while running on the cloud platforms is what really makes us different in the market today. So particularly when you make applications reliable, you got to be able to continuously deliver as well as make the applications resilient as well. We have been recognized by leading analysts, EMA top 3 platforms this year for application-centric automation and management. And we are a secure enterprise SaaS platform with 99.9% availability, but of course, we deliver more than that. It is 99.95 SLA in most of the regions that we deliver with the 24/7 support. By the way, you can hold on to the questions until the end of the presentation, or you can also raise your hand in between. I will, keep watching this panel for any questions that are coming on the side. Anyway, so the key question that we ask when we go and talk to a lot of our customers or potential customers is that, have you tested applications resiliency lately? Particularly the customers that are running on AWS or any public cloud platform, after they lifted and shifted all their applications to the cloud platform, there are a lot of assumptions that AWS has a most reliable, resilient set of regions because so many people, so many companies, enterprises are running on AWS. But if you really go and listen to AWS themselves, go and attend reInvent and or any of the presentations that they do, you will see, hey, customers, please take care of the resiliency. At least start with a second zone configuration for your application, right? I don't know how many of you remember the situations that happened with Netflix a few years ago. They have been one of the key proponents of AWS platform for a very long time, right? One of the killer applications on AWS is Netflix content delivery platform. And when you go from the enterprise, the typical enterprise style resiliency, typically you would go and talk to one of the resiliency providers like SunGuard or IBM or any of the third parties. They would create a secondary data center, a resiliency data center, and they would take care of these resiliency services for you. But when you move to the public cloud platforms, that's not the case. You got to do everything yourself, right? And making use of the existing data center style backup and recovery, like particularly the infrastructure-based, VM-based, or just storage-based recoveries is grossly insufficient. If you ask Netflix, they would tell you stories after stories. One of the reasons why they wrote Chaos Monkey and other, Simian Army set of testing tools to particularly make sure that when you move and run your applications cloud native, you got to be different. You got to do a lot more things that you are not accustomed to do when you are running your applications in the data center. So particularly, the natural disasters are occurring more and more. If you think about it, over a period of time, I think this year a lot more fires are happening right now. But you can see the floods and storms and earthquakes. I mean, natural disasters have been increasing year after year. Right? That is a big concern, even if you're running your applications on the public cloud platforms. You've got to be able to protect them in case where you have those natural disasters occurring. Second one is ransomware attacks. They are like occurring, every other week there is some kind of a cyber attack happening. Somebody stole all kinds of data and accounts, they are holding you kind of ransom, until you pay, pay me some Bitcoins, for example. So you have to be prepared for any random ransomware attacks that might happen anytime. We work with one of the largest enterprises that manufactures, eyewear and frames. They were attacked twice just last year alone. So they run in their own data center. So forget about taking care of the situations when you are particularly running on AWS. It's pretty easy for some cyber attack company in the back end to take over the entire account. So how do you really protect in those situations? Third is architecting for the public cloud itself. So if you think about it, this is directly from AWS reInvent. They clearly educate the customers to have an active and a passive failover type of situation. And you can see the complexity of it. On the left-hand side, you have to really think about all the load balancers, the web servers, the VPC IDs, the subnets. As you can see just the compute and the storage is just one of those components. You will have to manage specifically, if you're running 10 virtual machines, the number of resources that you'll end up managing is almost like 375, right? So AWS educates you with respect to what you have to do. And fourth is downtime is impactful in a lot of different ways. And most of the downtimes are because of bad configuration changes. There's a survey out there from Forrester, and I think there are a number of surveys from Gartner as well. You could go and check. Bad configurations, human errors are responsible for most of these unplanned downtimes. So in all these situations, my question would be, have you really tested your application resiliency? And when did you do that? And this question is, again, after you lift and shifted your applications to AWS and other public cloud platforms. And this is where we come in. This is where Appranix APS, the Application Protection Service, is coming into play. So what we do is currently, we are the only platform. We say that, but of course, the market will catch up. But so what we do is that we offer you the peace of mind with application reliability, right? Automated, app-centric, policy-based cross-region protection. And I know it's mouthful, but that's what it is. I don't have any other simpler way to put it, because it's application-centric and it is cross-region protected. You don't have to really worry about dealing with all those complex configurations and so on. Second, recovery confidence. You can go ahead and perform frequent, non-disruptive testing. So even if you, let's say, come from your data center world where you used to have an outsourced resiliency service, let's say with SunGuard or IBM, look at the process. If you have done that before, it's a project. You will have to go and schedule a particular time with the resiliency provider, and then you will have to configure all your applications, DNS, all those things ahead of time, and they need to be prepared as well. If you have your NetApp system upgraded to the latest version, there is no guarantee that they would have upgraded their NetApp system that replicated your volumes. And the similar situations with a vCenter, and so on, and the networks. And I mean, it's quite complex. So most of the time, what happens is that this becomes like an insurance, right? It's an insurance industry for IT applications where you buy the insurance, you try to reduce the cost, but nobody really wants to test it. But on the other hand, you have all those situations that I explained in terms of natural disasters to the right configurations for high availability and so on. You got to be able to test your applications frequently so that you have confidence that if something were to happen, you can recover your applications properly at the end of the day. Third, we offer the lowest recovery times. Right? Not only because we are completely cloud native, where we do not have to have any third-party backup products or any of the data management products bolted on top of the AWS native services. We are completely, built our platform on top of the cloud platform native services. So you don't have to have any third party, because of which, we drastically reduce recovery times. And the SLAs for those services are, again, if you're running on AWS, those are the same SLAs that is applicable for most of the services that we use to recover your application. And all the configurations that you kind of need for recovering the entire setup is taken care of. So lowest recovery times possible. Lowest TCO, as I mentioned, you don't have to buy third-party backup and recovery products. With respect to your resiliency services, you might have other reasons for protecting those for a longer-term retention and so on. That's a different issue. But with respect to resiliency and application availability, lowest cost for any of your applications running. So these are, again, not only just our viewpoint, but also our customers' viewpoint and potential customers voicing their opinions as well. So given that, today, if you look at, there is no single robust solution in the market today. As I mentioned, when you go and query your AWS services just within your own account, even if you are running, let's say 15 up 20, 30, 100 applications with, let's say 100 virtual machines. The number of data points that you will have to collect, configuration points that you will have to really think of, right, are too many. And it's very difficult to keep up because AWS and other public cloud platforms pretty much enable DevOps type of application delivery capabilities, meaning that you pretty much enable the application developers, the QA teams, and along with all your IT, cloud operations team, we call them as SREs, those go and change the configurations pretty often using cloud native tools, API, CLI. The entry point for changing the configurations, for deploying applications are many today compared to the data centers. And a system should be able to monitor those configuration changes if we were to promise proper recovery. But when you think about it, what is the current approach? The current approach is custom automation. People start writing some kind of a scripting using some third-party, configuration management tool set, or some kind of cloud formation oriented ones if people are ready to write cloud formation scripts. And you combine that with some kind of a snapshot lifecycle management systems. Those claim to be backup and recovery per virtual machine type of situation. And probably you're bolting on some kind of a third-party backup products because you kind of, when you moved from your data center to the cloud, you simply retain the same guys, right? So pretty much you're operating, you're carrying your SRE technical debt or operations technical debt over to the cloud, which is, we're supposed to kind of, better than that, right? And lo and behold, you end up calling some people, that you might know that might promise that they know AWS better than you. So you kind of pay for those expensive consultants to come up with some solution. And what is the guarantee on the application recovery? Not necessarily just bringing up those virtual machines and storage and so on. It is, what is the guarantee of application recovery? And even if you put together all those solutions, that is an automation system nightmare. right? And how many companies, how many enterprises, even if you are like DevOps savvy, infrastructure as code preparedness, in terms of you're ready to go, how effective is it for you to maintain this kind of an automation system? And that has been the number one inquiry from our point of view from customers that are seeking these capabilities from us. So what we do, we pretty much automate the entire process, right? To a point where we could actually guarantee the application recovery completely, right? Because it's better, 90%, 95% better than what you might have experienced in the data center world, even with all the capabilities like VMware Site Recovery Managers provided by disaster recovery as a service partners or solution providers. So here you start discovering the entire account with respect to a bunch of applications running in one of the regions. We collect all the details, again, hundreds and hundreds of data points. I'm highlighting this particular animated video, small segment of crucial aspects of this recovery system, right? So you typically take all the snapshots, manage your S3 buckets properly, and watch what's happening with respect to events and so on, and configuration changes using CloudTrail, and make sure that the configuration changes are properly kind of recorded as well, right? You've got to be able to monitor them or discover them continuously so that even if those configurations are changed by the developers, QA people, SREs, cloud ops people, right? Those should be properly captured and updated with respect to configurations for every one of the systems that is protected. And now you configure the Route 53, assuming that the applications with public access are properly configured with the Route 53. It could be other DNS systems as well, but in this particular case, it's AWS Cloud Native. So Route 53 is an option. Then you have an external access to your application to the users. Now comes the second region. Second region, you got to manage all those snapshots, all those configurations that you captured, pretty much, keep cloning all these properly, right? Manage the snapshots particularly well in respect to, making sure that, when you make a snapshot and a replication, there is an SLA provided by AWS, but what's the guarantee? And I would say, hey, it's a self-service, so you must have made some mistake. We encounter these problems very often. The AWS replication happens, the last snapshot doesn't replicate properly between the regions. And you will have to dig through all your logs and every possible output from your AWS system manager and other services. You will have to identify which particular virtual machines attached volume, which EBS volumes replicated snapshot is having that kind of a problem, right? Who has time for this? Now you will have to recover those snapshots. You will have to bring up all your virtual machines, all the snapshot at a particular point in time, and create them really quick, right? And then connect all the network configurations. And then make sure that the Route 53 configurations are properly configured. And finally, make sure that you have access, you have enabled access to the external users. So in the end, it is a unique service that we have built, right? We take care of all the configuration changes, all the AWS native services, all the snapshots, all the replication capabilities, and the security groups and routing tables. I cannot put in all the services. These services, as you know, AWS continues to release tons and tons of updates to the existing services, and they keep releasing new services. How would you really keep up with this? And on top of that, you will have to write infrastructure as code. Are you ready for writing the infrastructure as code continuously by changing configurations? You will have to have your own DevOps methodology to make sure that you keep up with it. And it becomes a nightmare. Again, the point is, what's the guarantee that you can recover your applications when you really need it? And that's what we offer today. So with Appranix, this situation of when your cloud infrastructure grows and your site reliability complexity, application operations complexity, grows exponentially over a period of time, because when did the cost come down with AWS, right? You have to figure out what it is. But at least you have the cloud infrastructure will continue to grow, but we are here to minimize the site reliability complexity for your application reliability. So that's what Appranix is all about. And it's not just the application protection system. We have other capabilities for continuous automation, increased availability of the data automation, and we have self-healing system, which is AI based. And we are about site reliability. So that's what we talk about SLOs and SLIs. Go, if you have chance, please go and refer to what Google is kind of preaching or highlighting in terms of how they are running their services, external services, using site reliability mechanism and the concept. So that's what our bread and butter, and that's what we have been doing for the last few years. So we have multiple services. Protect service is the one that we talked about today. And when it comes to buying and onboarding your applications to be managed by Appranix is very, very, very straightforward, right? It's not like the old product approach. Those mechanisms are gone. Everyone wants instant gratification. So that's what we'll do. Let's go and look at the site reliability automation. You click and go and look at what the product really offers. I have my own account, so I already subscribed, so I'm not going to do that. All you have to do is to continue to subscribe. It's all completely on AWS, as you can see. You can search for Appranix if you miss it, and I will have the service coming up at the top. Or you can see site reliability as well, site reliability as one of the services, and Appranix comes up at the top, right? So those, you can continue to subscribe. Once you subscribe, pretty much the service we have that integrated with AWS tightly enables us to automatically create an account for you in our SaaS platform. And once the account is created, what you do is that you go and discover your cloud inventory. We are showing a lot more services here because the entire platform is shown, including Kubernetes service. But if you buy only the Protect service, you will be guided only to specific ones. Here, you simply go and configure your cloud, select, give the access and secret keys, select the primary region, secondary region, and that's it. It's pretty much configure what you really need. And once you configure, the cloud inventory discovery would start, and it will go and discover all your resources here. So we are running, for the demo purpose, I'm running 3 virtual machines that run an application here, and you have 2 VPCs. So we kind of group them automatically based on the VPCs. So if you look at the AWS console, it's in Northern Virginia. So if you look at the dashboard, you have 1 running instances, other 2 are actually stopped. By the way, we support the capability where even if you have instances that are completely stopped, they can be protected as well. This is one of the specific capabilities that a customer really requested. Sometimes the virtual machines are stopped, but next minute it could be running, and next day they could be running. So you don't want these virtual machines unprotected in the second region. So we cover those cases as well. And you can see number of volumes, key pairs, security groups, and of course all those network details are not shown in the dashboard, but you will have to go into the details of how those networks instances, ENIs rather, and then the load balancers, auto scaling group, all those configurations just on EC2 alone are too many data points to really think about, including the tags. When you add tags for management systems, or for any other governance reasons, you will have to keep track of those tags when you recover them in the second region. So what we are going to do, we are going to recover those instances that are running here in the Oregon region. right? So let's watch out, what's happening here. We did bunch of recoveries before, so there is one that is already running, that is nothing to do with this particular recovery. As you might have seen, we had 3 before, and we are going to recover more. We keep doing that for testing purposes here. So what we are going to do is to go ahead and protect them and start the recovery process, assuming that everything is already set up. So if you go and click on the production environment, I go ahead, and sometimes network is patchy. Okay, so enter production environment. You can see a nice breadcrumb showing where you are. This is production operation discovered. 2 different cloud regions. You can see the configurations of this. Primary region is basically the US East, and recovery region is the US West. And you have a protection policy that's hourly, and the configurations that are completely captured. Based on what's available, what's created, we capture all of these data points. Hundreds of them sometimes. And you can see the cloud configurations here, administrative status, primary, and the recovery is already configured for you, ready to go. You can also delete the entire environment. I wouldn't recommend this because it would delete all the policies, everything. So unless you want to get rid of this particular assembly protection, you don't want to do that. And resources that are collected. So you can go into every one of these. You can check out the resources, configurations, and so on. So these will be, continuously updated when things change from the primary region. So you can see all the EBS volumes, network interfaces, the details of those network interfaces as well. So you can see the amount of data that we collect with respect to an assembly within an account. So all of that, again, primary snapshots and recovery snapshots based on the policy that we schedule. So you can schedule a policy saying that this is a default policy, hourly policy, and you can go ahead and create new one if you wanted. So it's a daily policy as well. So you can see daily, and can start at a particular point in time. Can say do not maintain more than 2, more than 2 snapshots at a particular point in time. So I'll have to remember to kind of delete that later on. So that's all you do. Retention of the snapshots on the primary side, retention of the snapshots on the recovery side. And once you schedule, the system will automatically take care of all the configurations for you. So likewise, every hour we query all the details, and we make sure that the data is properly automated as well. So you can see the number of snapshots kind of replicated and kept on the recovery region side, and you have all the network configurations and all the data points that are completely kind of kept track of. So you can go ahead and look at any of the configuration changes. When you run for a while, you will see hundreds and hundreds of automated timeline-based recoveries possible at any point in time. So you can go back and recover at any point in time, entire infrastructure that you had at that particular point in time. So here, one of the recoveries, let's go back to 3 p.m. and do a restore. So here, restoring a backup will create new cloud resources in the selected region, right? Because you're going to encounter a little bit of, or maybe depending on the type of applications, you will have a lot of resources that might be consumed. So you watch out for the cost, at least for the recovery. Recovery testing could be really, really quick if you already have the snapshot, so it's not a big deal. So you click, that's what I call the single click recovery. That's all you do. So it starts up, you can see we fire all the cloud native capabilities. So none of the complexities with respect to thinking about cloud formation, thinking about bringing the snapshots, managing the snapshots, and none of that should be a concern for an SRE or a cloud ops person because he doesn't care, right? You want your applications to come up. That's your goal, right? Why do you worry about how the infrastructure is put together, how the snapshots are recovered, whether they are really replicated or not? And you change the configuration. Are you going to keep track of those configurations? Network UCL is a good one that you may not even think about, right? But you got to have them properly replicated. And security groups, there are hundreds and hundreds of security groups that might be created by so many of these application developers, depending on the type of applications and so on. These are firewall rules, as you know. And you will have to think about kind of managing them. Sub-network associations. And of course, the instances are instances, compute instances. And you will have to really think about bringing up the right type of instances. So if you are running T2 micro on the primary region side, if you're not able to get the recovery region to have the same type of recovery, because when the hurricane hits, there may be situations where everyone wants to go to the West Coast, right? When the fire happens in California, everyone wants to really kind of test out, Ohio region recoverability. So if that's the case, even though AWS is infinite, supposedly infinite, it's not infinite. You may not get the right instances. This is again, people who have really tested the recoveries, even for their critical databases, they have encountered problems. So we take care of that. We pretty much adjust the system to properly come up with the right configurations, right? VPC gateways, who would have thought, what are these VPC gateways, right? You kind of create the virtual private cloud, the VPCs, and you have to really think about VPC gateways, DHCP options, right? Cider block configurations. I mean, there are again, hundreds and thousands of data points that you will have to worry about, keep track of, and the data automation, the life cycle of the snapshots themselves, right? You will have to really think about bringing them. So now, if you go back and look at the Oregon region, let's do a refresh of that and see the number of security groups that were created. You saw before, there was one instance that was running. And we have to make sure that even though the primary region has stopped instances, you will have to bring up the right instances up and running when you test them on the recovery side. So every one of these instances, so you can see all these configurations, magically appeared, all the network configurations, all the, including the tags will be kind of completely recovered. Root devices, block devices that are attached based on your AMIs, all of that, right, is magically kind of cloned and made sure that are available along with your data at the recovery site, right? And you can see the snapshot that are kind of populated. These are the ones, the latest ones. The three application configurations that I mentioned as security groups. Number of security groups. I don't have a time-based kind of creation here. Key pairs, network interfaces, all of that, all the ENIs that were supposed to be kind of brought up. Load balances, I don't think we really configured for this particular demo any of the load balancer configurations. We didn't really kind of highlight that part here. So all of that will be automatically created for you with a click of a button, right? And look at that. The power. I mean, it's now if you're enabled with this capability, wouldn't you go and test your resiliency? And that was our question. Have you tested your resiliency lately? And if you had the service, would it be easy to test? And of course, you can test as many times as you like, but you don't want those environments configured and tested and run all the time. So you want to go ahead and reset that entire configuration that you created for testing purposes or even recovery purposes. When you did the recovery, you might be running production because the East Coast went down for whatever reason, right? Application configurations mismatched. So you don't want to just clean up with a click of a button. We make you kind of type reset. That way you know what you're doing, at least, some kind of a slowdown. You cannot just go ahead and click that reset button. Because if you reset all your instances, except your snapshots, because that's managed by the retention policy in the backend. But everything else will be reset completely. So it runs through, reset is in progress. It pretty much initiates the entire thing in the reverse order, the way it was created. So you can go and check how the instances are kind of getting cleaned up at the moment. So let's watch from a compute perspective, how they are being shut down, right, properly. If I can click that one. I wish AWS guys made the interface a lot more easier to use, but it works. But it's kind of a little tricky to use. So you can see, it's all these instances are getting killed, right? And the snapshots will be kind of they will be managed, because you're not removing the snapshots here. All your network interfaces. So you can see, we had about 6. Now they are getting cleaned up appropriately. Security groups, we had, a bunch of them were already defined, so they were running. But let's look at the total count. So you can see it was before your eyes, it went down from 145 to 138. And Elastic IPs, we configure for other applications. Now the running instance is just one back to what it was before you initiated the recovery. So with that, let me conclude. There's still some more configuration and deletions are happening. So VPCs are properly cleaned up as well. So we have to create exactly same VPC configurations on the recovery region side. So that needs to be cleaned up at the end. So I believe that is the last configuration. And if not, there is one more VPC that we'll have to clean up. Just imagine, this is about 3 virtual machines. I mean, we pretty much configured for the demo purposes, timing it, right? We want to complete this recovery within webinar time frame. So 3 instances. We are talking about one of the customer having 550 instances running in one of the regions. So you can imagine kind of recovering them appropriately and cleaning up and making sure that all those resources are properly cleaned up. So all of that is properly updated and cleaned up for you without having to really worry about managing an automation system. And Appranix Site Reliability Automation takes care of it for you, right? So go ahead and test your recoveries today. So let me stop here and see if there are questions. Please raise your hands if you have questions. If not, we could conclude. All right, guys. Looks like we are the ones. I think Vijay dropped and a couple of others might have dropped. Okay, let me conclude this webinar for today, and we'll post this webinar online as well. Thank you.